They say cost is what you pay and value is what you get. In this episode of Dubai Real Estate Podcast, you will learn how to ascertain the value of a property in Dubai, how do you get your hands on an undervalued property, and how do you avoid overpaying for a property in Dubai. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do hit the subscribe button, like, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on the latest episodes. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, please do give us a 5-star rating and review. This really helps us getting discovered. And Spotify listeners, please do follow. So let's cue the music.
We're going to be diving deep into marketplace psychology today, Tahir.
Yes.
So we're talking about valuation. Now, if there's one thing that drives prices in the market, whether it be at an individual level for an individual property with an individual buyer, right through to the overall market prices, it's a concept of value.
True.
And how much something is worth. So you've dealt with, obviously, hundreds of clients. When they first think about if something's worth the money, what route do they follow mentally to figure out if something's worthwhile?
So, Raj, before I answer this, one thing which, what happens, a lot of people make a mistake in is they go by the cost and not the value what they're getting. And this is something which I always tell investors, whether it's an investor or an end user, don't always look at the cost, look at the value you're getting. Now, to answer your question, how do you ascertain a value, right? Now, you would say, there are a few parameters which you would ideally want to compare. First and foremost, you do something called as a CMA, which is a Comparative Market Analysis. Now, obviously, any agent you're dealing with should be able to give you that in terms of what the type of property you're looking at. When I mean by a CMA is like the type of property you're looking at. You see what similar properties, if it's a building, and if you've narrowed down on a building, say for example that you want to purchase a property in a particular building, you see what were the transactions in that building of the similar type of properties sold in the last 6 months, which will give you a fair idea of what the transactions are happening at. Also, you need to consider the factors if the property is upgraded, was it vacant, was it with a better view, higher floor, lower floor, sometimes properties with an extra parking or something extra. Then obviously you ascertain, you do a plus minus based on these extra features if there's. So first and foremost, yes, you need to do a analysis on what exactly is the transactions happening at.
So how big should that sample size be? How many properties should you look at to get an idea of what the average is?
You don't need to go in for a very, very deep, in-depth thing because it could be different, sometimes it happens, one-off transactions do happen at a very high price or a low price also depending, sometimes there's something very premium or someone had upgraded, or maybe, it sometimes happens that a person living on the same floor wants additional space and he's getting an opportunity to purchase a property just next to him. Maybe he might pay more for that. Sometimes it also happens someone wants to cash out immediately and he says, okay, listen, I'm willing to drop down the price by 5% more to encash it immediately. So that happens, but you look at an average price, what the transactions happening in the last 3 to 6 months. That is something which gives you a good idea. Instead of seeing the number of units, I would say look at the period. The transactions in the last 3 to 6 months give you a fair bit of idea what's going around in that particular development or an area.
So it seems to be very important then that when you're talking to somebody who's buying a property, that both you and the buyer have a similar or exactly the same understanding of the terms undervalued, overvalued, and correctly valued. Because if you both think those words mean different things, then something's not going to go right. You're not in sync. So when you explain to somebody what those terms are and how to use them in the context of making purchases in the Dubai real estate market, can you please define what does undervalued mean, overvalued, and correctly valued, and give us some examples?
Okay, so let me start with overvalued first, Raj. When we talk about overvalued properties, we're talking about a property which should be, say, a worth of 5 million, but is demanding 6 million or 7 million for the same property and is getting transacted also at that price. Now, value-wise, yes, it might be overvalued, but sometimes it also happens because of the demand. Sometimes it happens because of the hype created, the sense of urgency sometimes. So it can happen that, ideally it should have been valued at say 5 million, but maybe at that time there are very few people wanting to sell that type of property and someone really needs it. Okay, it's like a need, or a person really likes it, that okay, yes, I like this location, I like this building or this community, and I want this type of a house only. I'm willing to pay a premium to get that.
Does that mean that something, when it's overvalued, in your opinion, that it's only ever temporarily overvalued? Something can't remain overvalued in the long term.
Yes, in the long term, if it is overvalued, correction does happen. Okay. Now, when we talk about fairly valued, it's with the market. Okay, if similar type of properties are selling at 5 million, yes, okay. Sometimes if there's an upgrade, there is something extra in the property, and if it gets sold for 5.5 million, if it was a very good location, that is fairly valued. Okay, or someone did a very nice upgrade into the villa or an apartment, has spent a lot of money, then yes, that can command a higher price. But that is not overvalued. That is correctly valued, because there is an additional benefit coming along with it.
So to clarify, if something's correctly valued, it's close to the price of other similar properties. But if it's not, if it's 10% more, it's obvious why, which means a swimming pool, an extension, an extra garage spot, a corner unit. Okay, I understand. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Now, talking about undervalued. Now, this is a situation which doesn't happen very often, but through market cycles, there could be times where we find properties which are undervalued. Now, what exactly I mean by undervalued is something which, if was to be built today from scratch by taking, a developer came in, took a piece of land in that area, spent on the construction and finished it, and there's a certain cost to it. We did experience a few areas, few properties going at a price which would be cheaper than taking fresh land and developing today. So that is undervalued. Say something which, if a developer came in today and developed, would cost him say 1,000 dirhams, but in that same location, a ready property is selling for 800 dirhams a square foot.
Right.
Okay, that is undervalued. That is surely undervalued. Someone, if grabs a deal like that, obviously is going to make good money in the long term.
What can cause that though? Like a repossession, or somebody needs to liquidate?
One major reason which creates this, especially in Dubai, I feel, is fear. Okay, a lot of sellers sell out of fear. Many times I've seen that people, it's not that they need that money instantly or anything of that sort, but it's the fear that, my property was worth 1 million, it's become 800,000. I should sell it before it becomes 700 or 600,000. But they don't realize that if it becomes 700,000 or 600,000, it's still a property. It has value. It's rented, or they're using themselves. Now, unless you're in a situation where you need that cash out for some other purpose and you're selling, that's a different thing. That's a personal situation. But a lot of times I've seen people selling out of this fear because they're thinking, my property became 800,000. Why should, I keep it? I sell it. And, before it becomes 600,000, I'm going to lose money. Okay. If you see, if you talk about on paper, you might lose, but in actual sense, you only lose if you sell. If you hold the property, you wait till the market's correct again, and you wait, you're not going to lose. And most people made this, I've seen them making this mistake. They sold it, and then after 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, the price is corrected, and they're like, oh my God, I sold it at a lesser price. And they realize that they made a mistake. They should have held the property. So historically, this I've seen a lot happening in Dubai. Even when the markets crashed in 2008 and 9, the global crisis and all, people were selling at crazy prices, and people who took advantage of those times, they made money. Why? Because they bought it and they just held on for a few years, and the prices corrected again. Same thing if you see what prices we were getting in 2019. Today you're not getting those prices.
So talk more about that. What is it that's caused this correction? Is it fear? Is it the fact that over a 6-year period prices were kind of going down and then they went back up very quickly? What role did fear play in that?
Look, Raj, what happens is it's more to do with human psychology, I would say, right? When the markets are going down, everybody thinks I should sell and get out. Okay, I should book a profit. That's where most people make a mistake. People need to book profits when the markets are going up and not when the market is going down. Okay, a lot of investors think that I've already lost value, I want to sell. Also, coming to your question that it took 6 years to go down, 1 year to go up. When the markets start going up, one thing which I've noticed is a lot of sellers back out from selling. Okay, so just to give you a very simple example, say for example, in a community or in a building, there were 10 apartments on sale. Okay, when the markets start going up and they see prices are going up, 5 of them pull out. I don't want to sell my property anymore. Okay,
Because that fear is different. They fear missing out on growth.
yeah, I mean, they feel, okay, now my value is going up, why should I sell? Because if something was for 1 million, it's become 1.5, the greed kicks in. Oh, it's going to be even 2, it'll go to 2.5, whatever, XYZ. So half of them would be like, I don't want to sell my property. Now what happens is, when the markets are going up, a lot of people who've been wanting to buy, when the markets were going down, they were thinking, no, I should not buy. Because they were like, maybe probably it's not, it should, markets are going down. I don't want to buy in a down market. Now, when the markets start going up, everybody wants to buy. Sellers have pulled out. Okay, so for example, there were 10 properties in the market, 5 have gone out. Previously, there were 5 buyers for 10 properties. Now there are 10 buyers but 5 properties. So this creates, this transition from a seller's market to a buyer's market. And this happens very quickly, because when the markets start going up, everybody's like, oh, I'm not selling my property. Or they start demanding prices which are unreal. Okay, this is a very common thing which we experience in Dubai, that, a seller says, okay, I want to sell my property. You ask, okay, what price you want? Okay, I want 4 million. Okay, fine. You list the property, you get an offer for 4 million. The guy realizes, oh, I asked 4 million thinking I'm not going to get 4 million. I'm getting 4 million. I'm not going to sell. I want 4.2 million. Okay, fine. Then what happens? The offer gets rejected. Then you change the listing. You put it at 4.2 million. Maybe a few weeks down the line, a couple of months down the line, he got an offer for 4.2 million. Oh no, now I want 4.5 million. So, there's no end to this greed. Only seasoned investors, people who've been investing for a long time, who know the market, who study well, who keep researching well into the market, that what's happening, what's not happening, what are the transactions which are going on, they take a decision. There are so many seasoned investors I know of, and who are, who work with me regularly. We always are on a look or a hunt to buy when the markets are down. On a personal front, I would say I really enjoy shopping for property when the markets are down, because that's where you get real good deals. Okay, and this is a fundamental which a lot of investors don't realize, that you don't make the money on the on the sell. Sorry, you don't make the money on the sell. You make the money on the buy. So if you buy correctly, you buy at the correct value. You buy at the right time, you made the money. You might sell it after 5 years, 6 years, but you're going to sell it for a profit because your purchase was right.
So let me ask you then, with regards to the two types of fear, the fear of losing money when the markets are going down, so you exit your property and you sell it,
Yeah.
or the fear of losing out on gains when the market's going up, and so you pull out of a sale, you become fearful of selling it because you might not realize some profits in the near future because of greed. When an investor comes into that space, seasoned or not seasoned, when they're working with you, how do you work with that client to firstly recognize what the fear level is, and then how do you navigate through it?
Raj, any client I onboard, the first question I ask them is that what's their horizon? What are they looking at with this investment? If the client says, oh, listen, I want to buy today and flip in 6 months, I tell him, thank you very much. This is something which doesn't really happen practically. And there's no such, it's not impossible. It can happen, but it's not something which is, which you can actually say that this will definitely happen in 6 months. You'll be able to make money on this. That's something which really doesn't go well. Sometimes it does happen if you're lucky enough. Okay. Yes, you say, okay, I want to buy something for, I'm looking at 3 years, 4 years, or maybe 4 or 5 years down the line, I plan on moving into Dubai. I want to buy a bigger house, but I want to start saving. So I have a small equity built at that time. I'll upgrade. So the timeline is very important. Secondly, I advise my clients never to sell until and unless they really need cash for some other purpose. Unless, okay, yeah, if you're upgrading, then it's a different thing. You're living in a 2-bedroom, you want to move into a 3-bedroom, you sell and you buy, that's a different thing. But until and unless they really, really need that money for some purpose, I tell them, listen, if the markets are down, don't sell. Yeah, if the market's up, you're getting good value, there's no problem. But then again, if you're selling in a market which is really high, you need to also make sure you're getting some opportunity to reinvest that capital. Also, one thing which is very, very common, Raj, where a lot of investors lose money is when they invest in an off-plan property and they want to sell in between. That is where I see a lot of investors lose money.
So just for clarity, they put 10% down on a property that won't be handed over for another 3 years. They get a sense that the value of owning that property is going up before the keys have been handed over. Is that what you're saying?
No, the value of the property going down.
Okay. Oh, I understand. Okay.
If it is going up. So look, I'll tell you the two scenarios. One is where the value of the property is going up. Then obviously either they want to sell for a premium if they get someone willing to pay that premium and take it. That's one scenario where obviously the investor is going to be happy because he's put down a 10%, 20% or 30%, whatever down payment, and he's making a premium out of it. Nobody has an issue with that. But a lot of people make this mistake that they buy the property, an off-plan property, considering they're going to sell it in between. Now here there are two things which I really want to highlight. When a person is making an off-plan property buy, their question to the salesperson or whoever is selling the property to them, can I sell it in between? Yes, you can very well sell it. There's no restriction on sales. But this comes with a big asterisk mark. There's a condition. Every developer puts a sale condition, a resale condition for an off-plan property, which many times is, for example, you are buying an off-plan property, you're paying 10% today, but you have a payment plan of paying say 40% or 50% during construction and say balance on handover or post-handover payment plan, whatever the payment plan is. A lot of people ignore the fact that if you want to resell in between, you need to pay up 40% or 50% or 30% to the developer as a condition which is there to resell the property. So what this means is you bought into a property which is going to be ready, say in 3 years. You paid a 10% down payment today. Say 6 months down the line, for any reason you want to sell it. Maybe, you require the cash, you're not able to make the payment. Any reason, personal reasons, you want to sell the property, you want to get out of that investment. Now, when you go into the market to sell that property, if me as a buyer, I'm coming to you to buy your property where you paid a 10% down payment, the developer is going to ask me to pay 40% to take the transfer of ownership from you, even though that 40% is not due today. Okay? Why? Because that's a resale condition in the contract. Okay, so every contract has a resale condition which every off-plan buyer should really, really pay attention to. A lot of people, just to make sale, they do not tell them about this. They tell them, yes, you can resell it whenever you want, which is a fact, you can. But there's a condition for resale. A lot of people don't know about this. And when they want to sell, they think, okay, so a new buyer comes in today, a property which I bought off plan, work has just started or it's just, at ground. People have paid 10%, but person wanting to buy from you will have to pay 40%. Now, then what happens is, if me as a buyer, I'm coming in, I'm saying, listen, you know what, if I go to the developer directly, I'm going to be paying 10%. Why should I pay you 40% until and unless I'm getting a discount from you? So now what happens? You've paid maybe 10% or 20%. And if you have to give me a discount, you are losing money out of your investment. And that's where a lot of people make a mistake in an off-plan investment. Now, if they hold the property, if they plan well, if they plan to invest, that no matter what happens in between, even if the market goes down, I'm not going to sell. The second thing is, what happens is, if the market in between goes down, say maybe one person sold it for whatever reason at 10% minus, okay? They bought a property for 1 million and they sold it for 900,000 in between. This again, some investors think, oh, it's sold for 900. What if it becomes 800,000? Okay, I have already paid 200,000. My money is going to become zero. Let me also sell it, right? This is something which is, when you're investing in off plan, you should never do. You need to make sure you've planned well before you invest. This is something very important, and that's where a lot of investors make mistake. This predominantly happens with a lot of new investors, and when people missell. I've seen a lot of times where the salesperson just said anything because all they wanted or all they care about is their target. It's not about the customer. They don't care about the client, but about their targets. So you need to be very careful on that.
Okay, so speaking about downward markets or getting the value right, even if the market is going up, what is the real cause of a market going down?
Look, one is obviously demand and supply. Okay, if the supply becomes more, like what happened in Dubai was, there was a lot being built, and the demand didn't really pick up at that time. So the supply was quite high, the demand was not so high. This was one thing. Obviously, some sort of fear that the markets are not really picking up. You don't know what's going to happen with the place and stuff like that. So that also adds up. Similarly, when the markets turn, the demand comes in, people want to buy all of a sudden. They see Dubai now as a safe haven, a safe place, tax-free, long-term visas, multiple reasons what we've spoken about time and again. So then obviously the demand goes up. The supply since last 2 years is not too much being created or constructed. So obviously that imbalance somewhere gets balanced out.
Okay, and now let's go to the other end of the spectrum. Dubai is a very funny place, property valuation wise.
Yes.
Because you can walk from one building to another, 200 steps, and save 200,000 dirhams
Yes.
in the cost of the property. Talk to us about variance in valuation between neighborhoods, inside neighborhoods. What is this phenomenon in Dubai, and how do you navigate your clients through it to take advantage of it if they choose to?
Raj, this is a great question.
And start from the very beginning, because this is a very odd thing.
Yes. Now, see, what happens is, if you talk about other markets, when you talk about other mature markets like, say, London or New York, usually in these markets, you will find a price range for every area, okay? Which obviously they have a downward price range and an upward price range, that a low and a high. That low and a high would be in the range of usually maybe 15, 20%, 25%. But sometimes in Dubai, you'll find a range which is in excess of 50%, okay, or sometimes even 100% in a low and a high. So just to give you an example, in downtown, you could find a property maybe for 1,000 or 1,100 dirhams a square foot, and something for even 2,000 dirhams a square foot, and something even for 3,000 dirhams a square foot in the same 2-kilometer radius. Okay. Now, this is not very common across the globe. Now, why this happens is there are multiple reasons. One is the build quality. The build quality in Dubai plays a lot of importance in the price. Something which is good quality, great layouts, definitely holds much better value, is selling for a much better premium. Secondly, the views. Okay, the views matter a lot. You could have in one building an apartment at a 50% premium on the same floor just because of the view. If one is facing backwards, one is facing the front, similar size, similar type, everything same, you can see a good difference in the price. Not only that, there are some communities, some neighborhoods, to give you an example, Downtown and Business Bay, right? Now, Downtown and Business Bay are two adjacent communities. Obviously, Downtown is got the Burj Khalifa, the Dubai Mall and all, but Business Bay is not very far. It's, depending on from where you cross into, it's like just one road away and you're into Business Bay. Now, if you see sometimes, you'll find some really great value deals in Business Bay. When you just cross across, even in terms of rental, if you go into downtown, you're finding, say, maybe a one bed for 75,000. You just cross a road, you go the other side, you find a one bedroom for 60,000 dirhams. Okay, so there are sometimes real good value deals to be found like that. Obviously, it depends on the person's requirements, needs, his wishes, where he wants to be. But when you compare to communities like that, you might find something, really of great value. in, say maybe a business bay. Sometimes you'll find within downtown also. So this is something which is very different than a lot of other cities that, just across the road, not necessarily you'll find so much of a price difference. And that's what makes Dubai very unique. And that's why I tell people that you need to understand and you need to really look at the value. And here I would really want to highlight one more thing, which I keep telling time and again to people, that don't look at the cost of the property. I'm like, I really get so many inquiries and calls and conversations with clients. Oh, but this developer is selling a 1 bedroom for 1 million dirham. Why should I buy this 1 bedroom which you're telling me for 1.5 million? I tell them, listen, look at the price per square foot. The 1 bedroom which they are launching is 500 square foot. Okay, if you're buying that at 1 million, you're buying it at 2,000 dirhams a square foot. The 1 bedroom which I'm telling you to buy, which is ready or whatever, is say probably 1,000 square foot or 800 square foot. You're getting that at 1,500 dirhams a square foot. So comparing price per square foot is very important, Raj. If people, when they're making two comparisons of two properties, if there's anything additional feature or something, you can always ascertain the value of that particular upgrade, or maybe if there's an extra car park, and that way make a comparison. Also, I always tell investors, don't buy into the hype. A lot of people buy into the hype, right? Look, if there is a requirement, a genuine requirement that you need an apartment to stay today, you don't want to pay rent, that's absolutely fine. Okay, but you're making an investment thinking I'm going to make, whether for capital gain or to get a yield on it, you make sure you're buying the right property.
So hype would be considered what? Just an additional reason that a price of a property has gone up. Let's say it's a view, or there's a celebrity that's moved there, or...
Yeah, I mean, look, there could be some communities where, okay, maybe a celebrity's moved in. A lot of people feel that, oh, this is like the most happening community. There's a good hype created with that community, and
So,
you buy
so it's not based on hardcore property fundamentals. It's kind of like icing.
Sometimes it happens, and then what happens is these kind of hypes are short lived, maybe for a few months, 6 months, and then slowly you see that hype coming down.
Well, hype would be the first thing to come down.
Yeah, definitely, it is the first thing to come down, and then you see the prices have settled at a certain level in the community. Now the hype is less, so you need to always look at what you're buying, do an analysis, compare, and then make the decision. This is very important. Don't buy into the hype. Always look at the price per square foot. Look for the correct value. Not every off-plan or everything in the market is at correct price. If everything was the best investment ever, then everybody would be rich. People would have made money every day on properties.
Awesome. Okay, amazing. Well, there's a lot to take in there. Yeah. Obviously, we probably would want some questions, because value and valuation is such a big topic that there's probably 2 or 3 levels deeper that we can go. Yes. So if anybody's got any questions that you'd like to ask Tahir, could you please let them know how they can contact you, and then we will make a note of them and bring you those questions in this podcast.
Raj, they could contact me on any of my social media handles at Tahir Majithia, whether it's on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, or they could email me on tahir@trustedhomesdubai.com, and I'm always happy to help people. If they have any questions, any suggestions, I'm always there to help them. I have a lot of people asking me, just on suggestions before buying a property, and I'm just always happy to answer them. So they can definitely contact me, get in touch with me, and I'm always happy to help.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Tahir. Great episode. Go ahead and read us out.
Thanks for watching this video. I hope you liked this episode of the Dubai Real Estate Podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do hit the subscribe button, hit the like, notification bell, and please leave your comments. It is really valuable to me. Also, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, please do give us a 5-star rating and review. Spotify listeners, please do follow. And I hope to see you in Dubai very soon.